Welcome back everyone to FlokiModels. Let's finish assembly and get some paint on this 251. From what I can tell, the D model of the 251 all end up with this slight gap here on the driver's side storage boxes. That would need some filling. But it's a good flush fit on the storage boxes on the other side. The instructions want you to attach the fenders to the storage boxes and then add both to the body at the same time, but you get a better fit attaching them separately like this. I drilled out a small hole for the conduit for the driving light. A piece of small gauge wire is then glued into place. I attached the base of the driving light into place using Styrene Tack-It II. Then the wire is bent into shape and cut to length. I decided to add some slight armor texture to this, well, more so to practice than anything else, since the kit does have a slight armor texture to it. I like to use Mr. Dissolve Putty for this, but I was out of it, and so was my local hobby store. So instead I substituted Tamiya Basic Putty, and I mixed this with Tamiya Extra Thin, and it works just as well. I like using an old, smaller brush for this. I feel like I have more control applying the putty to the surface, plus it's easier to get into tight spaces with a smaller brush. The Tamiya Extra Thin will evaporate out of the putty the longer you work, so you have to continually add to your putty extra thin mixture as you go. Next I need to add a few weld beads that was absent on the kit. Here's one that I already done, and I'll show you how to add the one on the other side. Tamiya Epoxy Putty Crick type is used for this. Rolled out into thin strips, then pushed into the groove. Make sure to keep your fingers and any tools used moist with water to keep from pulling the putty out from the groove. A piece of brass sheet rolled around a toothpick and cut into a C shape is what I'm using to press the weld pattern into the epoxy putty. Again, make sure to keep the tool moist with water or you could risk pulling the putty out of the groove. And the final result of the weld bead. Now that everything is dry and set up, I'm going to knock down any high spots of the armor texture using a piece of 1200 grit sanding sponge. Again, make sure to keep the surface moist while working. I'm going to replace the tool clamps as ones that I 3D printed. The files that I used are from Homebrew, and I'll add a link in the description. To use them, I first need to remove the molded on clamps. This tool for scraping round parts makes this an easy job. To make sure I get the tool clamps lined up correctly, I first slide them onto the pickaxe. These look way better than the kit ones. Then add some VMS Flexy 5K to the fender. And then put the pickaxe into place. Once the glue sets up, I will pull the pickaxe out to paint separately. I decided not to have the axe on the other fender, so I need to add open tool clamps to it. I am using the kit AXO to determine where the clamps need to be at. And next for the fenders are the brass width indicators that come with the kit, and bent using the kit jig. These are so much better looking than the plastic ones that's also in the kit. The width indicators are glued into place using VMS Flexy 5K Black, which is my new favorite CA glue. Checking to make sure I have them even. The driving light is glued into place using Styrene Tack-It II. And finally, the tow hooks are glued into place. Now to start on some painting. First, the rubber on the road wheels and truck tires. Using a 1-to-1 mix of Tamiya XF54 Dark Sea Gray and XF63 German Gray. This is thinned 1-to-1 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. Next color I'm going to use is AK Real Colors RAL 8012. This is used to paint the backsides of the road wheels. I painted one fully in this color to show an unpainted replacement. I sprayed the road wheels through a circle template. Make sure to tape off the adjacent holes to keep any overspray off. The outside faces of the road wheels are painted Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2. Again, also sprayed through the circle template. And we are left with a perfectly painted road wheel. Now to paint the base color of the 251. Using the same Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2, but this time thinned 4 parts paint to 6 parts Mr. Leveling Thinner. I spray a random model pattern first. On armor, I don't do a slow, tight pattern like I would on aircraft, just a quick pass and then I go for coverage. I'll shut up for a few minutes here and leave you with the painting until we get to adding the camo colors. The next color to go on is AK Real Colors RAL 6003, thinned 1-to-1 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. I sketched the camo pattern on lightly first using a watercolor pencil. Again, I'll leave you now till we get to the next color. The last camo color is AK Real Color RAL 8017, again thinned 1-to-1 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. I think this is the first time I had any kind of tip dry using Tamiya or AK Real Colors. I blame the humidity, because it has been hot here recently. Had to check the camo painting diagram for a minute. After this color, I go back to the Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2, and I clean up any overspray, and then mist the entire surface from about 12 inches away to tie all three colors together. Now to add all the small dots of the ambush pattern. Again, I'm going to be using Tamiya XF88 Dark Yellow 2, thinned 1:1 missile leveling thinner. Thanks to Greg from Greg's Diorama Scale Models for the tip of thinning Tamiya to make brush painting so much easier. To paint the dots, I'm using my favorite 3-0 red sable brush. It's actually harder than you think to add these dots in a random pattern. Our brains like patterns and continuously find myself, trying to do patterns, but I think I overcame that a bit. Then the last step, I'm using AK Real Colors RAL 6003 thinned 1:1 with missile leveling thinner. The dark yellow portions are dotted with this color. This is where I'm going to end this video. The next will be starting on the weathering. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and as always a big thanks to all my subscribers. I hope you all liked this video and maybe found it helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, or even what projects you're working on. And also subscribe if you haven't already. I just had my 500 subscriber giveaway, and I'll be doing another one once I hit 1,000. Again, thank you all so much, and stay tuned for many more builds to come.